Mr. Who's the Boss situation is terrible. By Drew Daniels. I have no idea. I'll be real, I have no idea. I've reacted to his videos, and that is about it. That is legit about it, right? And yeah, we'll look at this. Also, please consider liking and subscribing. I appreciate it. Let's see what has happened. It could be because your PC is getting too hot. Nope. Same temperature as usual. I'm also in a pretty cold room, so that can't be it. Also, my phone has the same issue, so it might be YouTube related, actually. All right, let's go in. Let's see it. Let's see it. What's been going on here?
Back. If you clicked on this video, you probably know who Mr. Who's the Boss is. He's a massive YouTuber from Britain, 22.5 million subscribers, 2,000 videos. He's one of the largest, if not...
But yeah, I've definitely watched one of his videos. I definitely watched one of his videos.
The largest tech YouTubers on the planet. And apparently the United States had an issue with him, or more specifically, the Border Patrol had an issue with him several years ago when he was trying to enter the country. And he, for the first time, I believe, has broken his silence on the story and told it publicly. And it's a pretty horrifying story. So he was doing this 20 questions interview with the Dexerto, and they do a lot of these where they ask 20 questions that someone has never been asked. They've done it with like Mr. Beast and Jacksepticeye and Tommy Innit, Jack Manifold, etc., etc. And they always aim to get an exclusive of some kind, as any news organization would. Now, for some context, they ask him what the most money he's ever turned down is, and instead of telling about the most money that he's ever turned down, he talks about the most money he's ever lost out on because something went wrong. And in doing so, he segues well into this.
Interesting. So what did the United States do? I'm curious. Internet connection, maybe? How would I be streaming, my friend, if the internet connection was the problem? You're not thinking this through, are you? Anyways. Interesting. So what did the US do? Did they not let him in? But why did they not let him in? Did he have like some... did he have something with him and they didn't like that? Whatever, right? We'll see.
Story where, well, I'll let him speak for himself.
Oh god. So this isn't the biggest offer I've turned down. This is the biggest offer that I was never able to make. So we got an offer a few years ago to cover a high-tech stadium being built in the US. It was $300,000. So I was like buzzing. And I've never told anyone this before, but packed my bags, flew to the US, and I got interviewed by Border Control. They said, you know, what are you here for? And they said, come this way. So they took me to a back room, and they said in this back room, you can't take your phone.
Bro, have they interrogated him? Okay, bro, that's crazy. That's kind of insane, isn't it? That's kind of... They took this poor man into essentially interrogation room.
No. So I had like all the people from the sponsor and stuff like that waiting for me at the pickup area. And I couldn't tell them that I'd been pulled into this room.
So he's hired for this YouTube video. Presumably it's a sponsored video where he goes and he looks over this new stadium that's being built in the United States, and it's one of the highest tech stadiums that there is. And him being the most subscribed to tech YouTuber, it makes sense that he would be the one to kind of help break the story about this new high-tech stadium to try and get some sports money into the United States through like World Cup, Olympics, etc. But then while trying to, I believe, legally enter the country, he's detained by Customs and Border Control. And honestly, I have to say, especially having heard the rest of the story, it's kind of hard not to play the race card here. This type of work seems like it would be extremely common. There are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of full-time content creators, many of whom have staffs associated with them. So it seems like those people would be in the clear as far as getting into a country in order to do their work, shoot their videos, complete their sponsorships, or work for someone that is, and then leave. Millions upon millions of people do this every single year, so it seems weird that it's an issue for him for some reason. Now, later in the different article, Dexerto says that there was a visa issue, and we're going to look at that in a sec, but just spoilers up top, I don't think a visa issue justifies what he goes through here next.
Eventually, like probably a couple of hours had gone, it started to become really accusatory, and eventually they took me into a deeper room, and...
Bruh. What? Okay, that's insane, dude. That's actually insane. Wow, that's crazy. Arguably, there might be... You could actually pull the race card here for once. That's crazy, bro. What the fuck? Like, they could literally just look up his channel. Like, right? They could just literally look up his channel and then just know what this man is about, right? They probably didn't do that.
I was scared at this point. All the guards were armed. They took me into a cell and they actually like took all my clothes off and like felt around in all sorts of ways. Like very violating stuff, let's just say that. And then they let me kind of put my clothes back on, but they still didn't give me my phone. And I was stuck in this cell, no ability to contact anyone. Family had no idea where I was. I remember just feeling like inhuman. 26 hours passed before I got sent back home. I got deported, and they didn't even give me my phone till the flight had taken off.
This is unbelievable. And this is why I said I have trouble not playing the race card. Because what could they have possibly thought he was doing or was going to do or maybe had recently done that justified holding him in a tiny cell for almost 30 hours and treating him the way that they did? You can literally just look him up on the internet and see that he's the largest tech YouTuber in the world who's coming here presumably to make a tech video, because that's what he does. Also, he's British. He was born in Nottingham. It's not like the Brits are known for sending a bunch of terrorists over to the United States that commit heinous crimes or something. Like, if any single person
Sadly, the state of the UK is interesting. Let's just say that. That might be the state of the UK the way it is, honestly.
there had just done a Google search, they would have seen who he was and been able to comfortably ascertain what he was doing there. Now, obviously, I don't work for Border Control, but I do have common sense. And it seems like my common sense would tell me that if I was working for Border Patrol and I was detaining someone and they said, no, I'm here for a YouTube video, look me up, you can find my channel. And I look them up and I find their channel and it's one of the largest channels in the entire world. And I'm watching the videos and I'm like, oh, well, would you look at that? That is them. I probably wouldn't think they were here to, like, blow up a national monument. And I'm not saying they have to let him into the country. Legally, they absolutely don't. But that seems like that would help them in not treating him like a criminal who had done some horrific deed and needed to be interrogated for almost 30 hours. No crime had been willfully committed and no charges were brought. He was just held there like a dog in a cage for...
Yeah, that is definitely questionable, like, bro. Just look up who he is, and then it's very clear, right? That's just very clear that he is really not that. He's not gonna do shit. I'm assuming, right? You could just literally look it up. Problem solved. But they didn't do that. I think that you could definitely pull a race card here. It's just a bit weird.
for over a day.
So that's when I was able to actually text my family, yeah, sorry guys, it all fell apart. Every single time I go to the US now, I get taken to a second room, I get interviewed because this like black mark is next to my name. And I'm scared. I don't like it.
Yeah, because you feel like a criminal every single time, even though you haven't done anything wrong. Imagine that you get pulled over every time you leave your driveway. There's a cop sitting at the end of your street. You get in your car, he gets in his car, you pull out, he immediately pulls you over every time, checks your license and registration and your tags and searches your car, etc. And even though you've never been ticketed, you've never committed any vehicle-related crime in speeding or suspended license or what have you, you would still get nervous every time it happens, and you would also be rightfully justified in saying, hey, what the hell? I haven't done anything. Why am I being treated like a criminal every time you see me? Now, earlier I said there was a visa issue, and Dexerto clarified that. It's not in the main video, but it says he was finally sent home after 26 hours. He felt traumatized. As for the reason for the search, Mani, I can't pronounce that, says he wasn't flying with the correct visa for his trip. So my theory is that he entered on a personal visa or maybe some kind of a vacation-based visa, thinking it would be easier to get into the United States to do what he needed to do. Because, spoiler alert, and you're probably aware of this, the United States is not like super friendly to work visas right now. It's much more difficult to get into the country on a work basis.
Yep. It's a little more difficult right now, which is interesting, right? Sounds sus, but I want to know what the Border Patrol claims before making a position. Obviously, right? Right, you gotta hear all positions here. But it's very interesting. It's a bit odd, right? That you wouldn't just look up the dude, right? It's a bit odd.
visa under the current administration than it was under the previous one or other administrations that we've had in the past. And likely, Mr. Who's the Boss was fully aware of this, and so he was trying to get in under a different visa that was more likely to be approved. Something vacation-based, because people who come here on vacation tend to spend a lot of money and then they leave, and that's good for our economy, as opposed to a worker's visa where they come here and yes, they spend money, but they also make money, which is like weirdly controversial in the United States right now. But even if that is what happened, I have to imagine people mess up their visas all the time. We get millions, maybe tens of millions of people every year coming in on various visas, vacation, personal, work-related, student, what have you, I don't know all the visas, and then leaving. And I have to imagine at least 1 or 2% of those people mess it up pretty consistently. And I can't fathom a world in which tens or hundreds of thousands of people are being mistreated and dragged into small cells for days at a time with no warrant and treated like this. I know that people get rejected or sent back to the country of origin all the time because their paperwork is incorrect, travel is complicated, but that's not like an excuse to treat all of them like a criminal. And I feel confident in saying that most of them aren't treated like criminals. So the fact that he is seems weird, especially when he's very obviously a public figure there on the public figure work that he does. So if his only crime was making a mistake that I presume people make all of the time, and he's coming from a country.
Yeah, it is definitely weird. Something is definitely sus. I don't know. We don't have the other side, so it would be difficult to say anything, right? But that is certainly odd. That is certainly odd, yeah. Huh, what could the like, nah, it's just a bit aggressive, isn't it? That's a bit aggressive. I guess, like, that you would be alert if it were from the UK, right? I guess you'd also be alert if it would be from, like, France or even, right? I get that, but I don't know. It's odd.
That it's not known for sending over a bunch of violent criminals or terrorists, I think we're left with the conclusion that it at least partially was because he is not white, and that was an issue for some reason. Now, for those of you saying that sounds illegal, which is something that I thought like, well, he's being held against his will, isn't this like unreasonable search and or seizure, which is unconstitutional? The answer is no. The Customs and Border Patrol has like crazy amounts of authority. As long as you're at a port of entry, they have warrantless search and inspection, so they can inspect basically anything at all, human or otherwise, coming into the country. They also have the power of immigration inspections. They can also inspect your electronic devices. They can also do secondary inspection. I'm not completely sure what that is. And then they've got nearly unlimited capacity to detain people, expedited removal, arrest and seizure. The idea is that all the constitutional rights that you think you might have basically don't apply to Customs and Border Patrol as long as they believe that you might be an alien looking to commit a crime. That's right. If you're a United States citizen, as long as they have reasonable belief that you're not, or you're lying, or you faked it somehow, then they can still do all of these things to you. They can seize and inspect everything you own and detain you for, I'm not going to say as long as they want. I'm sure there's some legal requirements, but as far as we're concerned, it's as long as they want. All without any probable cause or a warrant. And don't get me wrong.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, the fact that laws don't apply is probably because you are in the US citizen, so of course they kind of don't, but anyways. That's interesting. That is so interesting.
I'm fully against criminals being allowed to enter the country, but it seems like what they did to him was vindictive and racist. Considering that they sent him back anyway, it seems like the whole 28 or 30-hour ordeal that they put him through was purely for the sake of putting him through it. It didn't accomplish anything. It's not like they were going to detain him for 26 hours and then send him on his merry way back into the country. No, they wanted to detain him to send a message and teach him a lesson and then send him back to Britain. So did he do some small technical thing wrong? I mean, yeah, probably, I assume, with the visa. Does that at all justify what he went through? I think most of us reasonable people can agree that no, it does not, and it was horrifying. Anyway, it's been this long since you had an.
Yeah, it is a bit interesting. That's all I gotta say. It's a bit interesting, right? There would have been a better way to solve this. Like, bro, if I look up his name up and I see like how many subs did he have, and I see that, I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm gonna. There's no chance that he's gonna do something. That just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense. There's just no logic to it. That's really all there is to it. Of course, I'd like to see what the Border Patrol has to say, because that interests me as well. But we don't have that in here, which is unfortunate. But that's very interesting. That's so interesting.